That's me!
On Saturday, February 22nd, 2020, I covered a protest at the Marriott Hotel and Convention Center in Coral Springs, Florida. The crowd of a few dozen largely conservative demonstrators organized in opposition to an Imam named Siraj Wahhaj, who was selected to be the keynote speaker at the annual Icna Islamic Circle of North America Relief Banquet. Wahhaj was an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing in New York City. The protest was arranged by Joe Kaufman, a three-time Congressional Republican nominee in Florida's District 23, running against Debbie Wasserman Shultz. Joe began his speech by listing the names of the 6 people murdered in the 1993 World Trade Center attack. Here's Joe Kaufman, followed by 3 speeches by and brief interviews with Laura Loomer, Deepak, Ganju, and Shlomo Nizahon. Enjoy.
We are here tonight in protest of an event taking place around the corner from us at the Marriott Coral Springs Hotel and Convention Center in Coral Springs, Florida. The hotel is hosting a speech tonight made by one of the named unindicted co-conspirators of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, Siraj Wahhaj. This event, a fundraising banquet which is being sponsored by the radical Muslim group Icna, is happening merely 4 days from the 27th anniversary of the bombing. Just 4 days. The attack, a truck bomb detonated in the parking garage under the North Tower, took the lives of 6 individuals and injured over 1,000 others. It was meant to collapse the building, which, as we witnessed 8 years later during 9/11, would have taken the lives of thousands of others. Siraj Wahhaj, who is the Imam of the Al-Taqwa Mosque in Brooklyn, was designated by the U.S. government a party to the 1993 attack. His name is found on the list of unindicted co-conspirators for the 1995 trial for the bombing. Other names on that list include Osama bin Laden and bin Laden's mentor and Al-Qaeda co-founder Abdullah Azzam. And it is my understanding that the Coral Springs Marriott management claimed that their corporate office instructed them to hold this event tonight. When a major hotel chain, such as the Marriott, plays host to a fundraising banquet with someone associated with a large-scale terrorist attack that took the lives of 6 Americans, and that culminated in the 9/11 attack that took the lives of 3,000 more, ethics and reality have all but disappeared, and our enemies rejoice. This event should not take place today, tomorrow, or any time in the future. It is time we put patriotism before profit and political correctness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe, for having me here today. It's always great to come out. I love the grassroots, and I love really just educating the public about what's happening in their own backyard, right? So many people, they have no idea what is happening in their country, let alone their own backyard. If you were to walk down the street or talk to the people who are driving by and you were to tell them, hey, did you know that inside that hotel is a co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, they probably wouldn't even know what the hell you were talking about, right? Well, this is a problem that we have in our country, right? And it's one of the reasons why I was inspired to run for Congress. I'm running for Congress now in Florida's 21st Congressional District against Lois Frankel. And I've spent my career thus far working as an undercover investigative journalist with Project Veritas, and then I started my own media company. And a lot of what I did was confronting these jihadists and exposing a lot of these pro-Sharia, radical Islamic candidates, people like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, people like Linda Sarsour. My investigations led to the shutdown, really, of the Women's March and the expose. And what these people all have in common is that they have all fundraised with Siraj Wahhaj, right? Siraj Wahhaj is I would say, Joe, you probably would agree with this, he is the probably the #1 go-to choice for imams in America by these Islamic organizations, because when he has events like this, they raise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars sometimes at these banquets, okay? And it was at the Icna convention in Chicago where Linda Sarsour, who is now, right, to put this into perspective for you, to just show you how infiltrated our government has become by these radical jihadists, right? People like Siraj Wahhaj, people like Ilhan Omar, people like Rashida. Linda Sarsour is now serving as a top surrogate for Bernie Sanders' campaign, okay? I just got a news alert on my phone before taking this podium that Bernie Sanders is going to be the winner of the Nevada caucus, okay? So it's looking like Bernie Sanders is going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party, and he has Linda Sarsour working on his campaign. Well, why do I mention Linda Sarsour? Well, it was at the Icna convention in Chicago 2 years ago, right? 2 years ago, where Linda proclaimed that Siraj Wahhaj was her mentor and her favorite person. Her mentor and her favorite person is a man who is a co-conspirator, right? They call him an unindicted, but unindicted doesn't mean you're innocent, all right? Unindicted doesn't mean you're innocent. And there's a sign right there to show that, right? Unindicted doesn't mean you're innocent. And this is who Linda Sarsour, who is having direct access, right, to the man who is going to probably be the Democrat nominee for president, is saying. Well, what else does he do? Well, how many of you remember the story in the news about a year ago where there was this compound in New Mexico, right? Remember this compound where they were training children to be jihadist school shooters, and they found all these malnourished children? That was Siraj Wahhaj's son, who's also named Siraj Wahhaj, who was running a terrorist compound in New Mexico where they were starving and abusing children, and they were training them, according to the FBI and law enforcement officials, to carry out school shootings, right, jihadi school shootings, and they were also planning a terrorist attack at the Grady Hospital in Atlanta. Okay, this is all what they were doing. And Siraj Wahhaj was well aware of what was going on at this compound because he had been sending care packages, is what he called them, care packages to his son and the family there, where his grandson, who was 3 years old at the time, was starved to death and left to rot on the property. Okay, these are the people, Siraj Wahhaj and his family, 1 degree of separation. You have Islamic fundraisers in this country, whether it be Icna, CARE, Engage, all of these Muslim Brotherhood-tied organizations having political fundraisers, having what they call social justice events for people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, who they have endorsed, okay? And Siraj Wahhaj and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, they have spoken side by side. They have raised money at the same events both prior to becoming members of Congress and since becoming members of Congress. I was in Woodland Hills, California in March, right? So about a year ago. And it was at that event where Ilhan Omar, how many of you remember when she said some people did something, right? That's how these people summarize what happened on 9/11. Okay, the murder, the brutal murder of nearly 3,000 Americans. Some people did something. Yeah, well, Siraj Wahhaj was at that event too. You know that? Siraj Wahhaj was at that event with Ilhan Omar, who is sitting on our Foreign Affairs Committee in Congress with access to our classified information. Okay? We have a serious problem here in Florida, and anytime you talk about the Islamic issue in our country, anytime you talk about the Islamic terror threat, you get branded as a racist. You get branded as anti-Muslim, as they call me. You get branded as a conspiracy theorist or an Islamophobe. Right? But we have a real problem. Okay? Here's just a summary of some of the things that have happened in Florida over the last few years, okay, on top of these fundraisers which pop up often. You had the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting, okay, where you had an ISIS terrorist walk into a gay club and kill 49 people. And then his father turned out to be an FBI informant and was invited as a VIP guest to Hillary Clinton's rally when she was running for president, right? So if you think that this is a, far and few in between issue, and that Islamic terrorism isn't here in your country and that the Democrats aren't intertwined, you are sadly mistaken, because not only are the Democrats and our law enforcement agencies intertwined with these people, but they have them on the payroll and they're inviting them as VIP guests to their campaign fundraisers, okay? We have been seriously infiltrated. Just a couple weeks ago, over near Mar-a-Lago, after the Soleimani airstrike, okay, there was an Iranian national who came in through the Palm Beach International Airport. He had $22,000 of cash on his body and a bag full of machetes and other weapons, and he was headed over Flagler Bridge, right? 2 miles from where I live, 3 miles from Mar-a-Lago. And if you recall, it was the Iranians who were posting on Twitter, which I'm banned from, right? And maybe some of you are too. But it's interesting, right, how you have Islamic terrorists who have access to these social media sites where they're able to call for the bounty for the President of the United States head and encourage retaliatory assassinations or Islamic terror attacks on Mar-a-Lago or the President's properties as they did. Then we're probably about, right, this is all between an hour, hour and a half, 30 minutes, right? These are all different areas. You have the fundraiser, you have Mar-a-Lago, Flagler Bridge. The Fort Lauderdale Airport is probably, what, 30 minutes from here? Okay? An ISIS terrorist walked into the Fort Lauderdale Airport and killed several people in a terminal a couple years ago, right? Ballin Islands, which is about an hour and a half from here. A 17-year-old kid converted to Islam, and he went to a sleepover, and he sliced the throat and decapitated a 13-year-old boy in Ballin Islands, which is, you know, a pretty wealthy community here in South Florida. So all around you, right? Miami. 3 months ago, you had an ISIS terrorist who was arrested for trying to blow up an American Airlines airplane because he was sabotaging it, and he was one of the airline workers. And what did the media do? They called him a disgruntled worker. But it turns out he was actually sending money overseas to support his brother, right, who had ties to ISIS. Whether it's Miami, whether it's Coral Springs, whether it's Broward County, right, where they just had a man the other day on Facebook Live threatening, while wearing a turban, to assassinate the President of the United States in the name of Islam, whether it's Palm Beach, Florida, where I'm running for Congress, or Orlando, or Pensacola, where an Islamic terrorist just opened fire and killed several people at a Navy air base. Islamic terrorists are in your communities, they are in your neighborhoods, they are in your children's schools, okay, and they are in the halls of government everywhere you go. They are inside this hotel, and notice the police are outside here with us. So we, as, you know, American patriots, American-loving people who love our country, who respect law enforcement, people who are, you know, against Jew hatred, against Christian phobia, people who embrace Judeo-Christian values in our country. We are forced to stay outside of the hotel on the sidewalk, treated like criminals, while jihadists who have pledged allegiance to Sharia, who have a loyalty to Sharia, not the United States Constitution, people like Siraj Wahhaj, who wish to see the absolute destruction of the United States of America, are protected inside by your taxpayer dollars, as you can see, right? And look, God bless the police officers for being out here, but it is really wrong. It is really wrong that we have to be out here while people like Siraj Wahhaj and people from CARE, people from Icna, people from Icna, Muslim Brotherhood-tied terrorist organizations are protected on your taxpayer dime. And a little bit of sad news, you know, unfortunately, last night, Filippini, a lot of you probably know Filippini. He was one of the leading experts in the counter-jihad movements in our country. He was found dead with a gunshot wound to his chest last night in California. And it's looking really suspicious. It's looking really suspicious. You know, and they're still looking for, you know, some details, and they're still investigating. But if you were to ask me, I would say he was murdered. I honestly would. And Filippini had been investigating Siraj Wahhaj. He had been investigating CARE. He had been at the forefront of investigating all of these Muslim Brotherhood organizations that have now successfully infiltrated and subverted the United States government and our intelligence agencies. And so I would just like us all to really, you know, say a prayer for Filippini and his family, and keep him in your thoughts, keep him in your prayers, and pay attention to this investigation as it unfolds, because I highly doubt the mainstream media is going to give this American patriot, you know, the coverage that he deserves. But this is a man who was a whistleblower, right? He warned the American people about how the Obama administration was actually instructing DHS officials to scrub the records, to scrub the internal records to cover up for Islamic terrorists and people with ties to Islamic terrorism. So there is a war on people in this country like us, American patriots, who are speaking truth, utilizing our First Amendment rights, whether you're banned on social media like me or whether you get a gunshot wound to the chest. There is a war on the investigative efforts and the free speech efforts in this country to expose the type of evil that is taking place in there. And so I just want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight. As a congressional candidate, combating Islamic terrorism and ridding the halls of Congress of these Islamic jihadists known as Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar is central to my platform, and I hope that when I win my race, I can help make America safe again. So thank you so much.
My name is Deepak Ganju and I'm from India. And in India there is a region called Kashmir. It's in the north of India. We lived in that region peacefully for many, many years before the onslaught of Muslims in that region. See, Muslims have a problem. When they are in minority, they're very nice with you. But as soon as they become 50%, 60%, they will throw you out. And that is exactly what happened to us in Kashmir. I'm a Hindu, and India is majority Hindu country. But in the region of Kashmir, we had majority Muslims. So we were thrown out of our own homeland. As this poster says, 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus were ethnically cleansed from Kashmir. And how they did it? They did selective killings of innocent Hindus. They did rapes of innocent women. One of the women was taken on a bandsaw after raping, and her body was cut into 2 pieces and thrown on the street. And that forced the Hindus to leave from Kashmir. What I'm trying to tell you, that from Kashmir, it has gone to London, it has gone to Birmingham in England, it has gone to Germany. And those Islamic terrorists or those Islamic fundamental radicals are here right in our backyard, right behind us. And that is what they do. They always do this fundraising for innocent people who are poor in their country, for education and all. But where the money goes, it goes for terrorism. It goes for radical Islam. So we have to be very careful, even in this country, that one day these Islamic terrorists, these Islamic radicals will take over the United States of America. You have seen what has happened. 50,000 Somalis were brought by Obama in Minneapolis. And you see what they produced. Rashida Tlaib. Ilhan Omar and Rashida, yeah. And you are seeing what they are doing, what kind of havoc they are creating in this country. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very cautious in this country. We don't want Miami, we don't want New York, we don't want California to become another Birmingham as in England. So we have to be cautious and careful. So I want my American brothers and sisters to know that Islamic, radical Islam is a threat to this country. And we have to be cautious and careful. Thank you very much.
My name is Shlomo Nizahon, and I know war. It was Yom Kippur, everyone was praying, the siren started, I was 11 months old, and my father just left the synagogue, took his backpack, and left. He wasn't even called. My mom asked him, "Why are you going?" "They haven't called you yet." And he said, "Because I have to." And he never came back. For me, I thought the war was over, and it was done. That we're done with the wars. And then one day, you have a Palestinian Authority representative come to our campuses right here in Florida. I call the authorities. I call everyone to say, "Hey, listen, the Palestinian Authority is right here. They're talking to our students." I get nothing. Nothing at all. So I put on a suit and I head out. While there's 500, 600 students, unbeknownst to what they're about to hear, and they're hearing only one side of a story. What I understood that moment is that the war hasn't ended. It has just begun. But it passed from arms to the mind. The war is on the mind. There's 500, 600 students behind me sitting there. They're listening to stories from the Palestinian Authority pushing on extremist agendas. Now in my mind, I see a couple of things. All these students are going to go where? They're going to go to Congress. They're going to go to corporate America. And they'll try to make the change according to what they hear. Not according to what the truth is. But that wasn't enough. For me, it was just the starting point. As time went by, anti-Semitism rose, and I figured I had to do something because my father did not die for no reason. Now, I'm not going to let what happened there happen here. So I started investigating what Joe has mentioned, incitement to terror. A powerful, powerful tool. What is terror? Terror has two sides to it, right? And one side is to enlist fear on us, right? They have all these terrorist agendas, they have all these acts that they do, and we're supposed to be afraid. Are we going to be afraid?
No.
Are we going to be afraid?
No!
Are we going to be afraid?
No!
Exactly. Another point to terror is to enlist people. To enlist lone wolves. To incite. And to bring people here so they can do terror acts so we can change our way of life. Are we going to change our way of life?
No.
There's no way we're going to change our way of life. We love our democracy. Right?
Yes.
We love our democracy.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Yes! We love our democracy. Come on.
Yes. Woo!
Wake up. Because if you don't wake up, they're doing their work. If you don't wake up, one day, United States will be United States that you won't recognize. So they know our First Amendment. They know that we will fight for our rights. They know it's difficult to change our rights, and we don't want to. Why? Because this is how we live. This is what we love. So what I did, I wrote a research paper, how to stop incitement to terror, on the internet, so that the social media giants at least would remove some of the terrorists from the internet, so that they don't teach how to murder people, so they don't enlist other terrorists to do terror acts on U.S. soil or any other soil all over the world. So I sent it out to representatives. You think I received an answer? No. So there's no choice for me was to run for Congress. To make the change myself. First of all, because it is necessary. I love America. I moved here when I was a young kid. I thought the war was over. I love our democracy. I love our freedom of speech. I love that we can sit here and do what we're doing. I don't want a different country. I don't want them to assimilate our country to their rules. I'm open to talks. I'll sit with them. I don't mind sitting with anyone to talk, not to be forced upon. I'll talk with them. They want to sit at a table so that we can reach any agreement. I'm willing to do it. That's the only way that it could be done. The only way. 1993, we had an attempt on the World Trade Center. 9/11, we lost thousands, and they thought that we would back down. We're not going to back down. We're not going to change the way our life. But a certain change has to be done. Congress needs to wake up. Legislation needs to be made so that it is current to what's going on in these times, so that our way of life is not changed, but it's only made better for all of us, forever. And that's why I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Thank you.
And, Laura mentioned Phil Haney, and I want to say that because when Laura called me and she had told me that Phil had been murdered, and I'm thinking to myself, like, Phil Haney, and I knew him very well. We were actually involved together. This is the last thing we were involved together with was he was putting together a dossier for Homeland Security on the Islamic Circle of North America, and we were working together on that. He was using a lot of my information in the dossier, and he kept on calling me, asking me for information, and we stayed on the phone for hours talking about these things. And it was very serious, because had he put out that dossier and had that gone into Homeland Security, something could have happened with regards to this organization. Why do I say that? Because this organization, Icna, I didn't mention it in my speech, but this organization, Icna, they helped finance, and I have the proof of it, they helped finance Hamas, they helped finance Al-Qaeda. This organization that has this Imam speaking here. And then I get a phone call shortly after, in the midst of his doing this research and putting together this dossier on this Icna organization. I got a phone call from him saying that he was demoted by the Obama administration and that he was no longer allowed to do this work. His work was based on Muslim radicalism. That was his work with regards to Homeland Security. That was his specialty, that was his expertise, and that's why they hired him to do that. And he was demoted and put in a position where he was not allowed to deal with the Islamic community any longer. He told me about, he had I don't know if it's in his book, but he had done a dossier very similar to what he was doing with Icna. He was doing this dossier for ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, and he completed it, and he presented it to the Obama administration, and they made him black out half of what was in that dossier. And why did they do that? Because if you go back in time with the Obama administration, the White House was doing events with ISNA, with the Islamic Society of North America, and so to have somebody in Homeland Security put out all of the terrorist ties, which there are many with ISNA and Icna, to put out those terrorist ties while you're holding events, while you're putting out pamphlets pamphlets that say on the bottom of them, White House, Islamic Society of North America, or ISNA. You know, you're partnering with this organization. And so unfortunately, he didn't make any friends in the Obama administration, and they wrecked his life. I don't know what happened to him, you know. God bless him for what he did. I feel very sorry that he's gone. He was a very good man, a very nice guy, and he didn't deserve what happened to him. Well, I guess we'll be finding out about it very soon. But rest in peace, my friend, Phil Haney. Rest in peace. Anyway, thank you.
Crossing Obama can be deadly.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Bobby Pickles, and I'm here just covering this event that you have going on over here at the Marriott. And I heard you speak. Your name is
Deepak Ganju.
And you're part of what is it? It's the Kashmir
Hindu Foundation. Yeah, right. We are from India, and a region called Kashmir is a state. So
I have a lot of Indian friends. Yeah. I have a very good Indian friend. He actually got me through college.
Right. So most of the Hindus from Kashmir had to. He's
a Brahmin Hindu.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm also Brahmin for that.
And I'm aware of definitely there's like a lot of you guys like pretty much fight with Pakistan a lot, India and Pakistan.
India and Pakistan, because Pakistan once India was divided, the Pakistan has been like always supporting terrorism to destabilize India. So it has been going on since 1947, but it escalated during because the Kashmir is predominantly majority Muslim country. So when it acceded to India, they could not take it. So they have been always infiltrating training the terrorists from Kashmir and sending them back to India so that they can,
Yeah, it's
create
a total history between the two cultures.
to culture. Yeah. So, but Muslims, India is I think third or fourth largest Muslim country in the world. So Muslims in India live peacefully, like America. India is also a democratic country, so we live peacefully. But Pakistan doesn't want that to happen. That is what is there.
So what are you trying to warn against here?
See, we have suffered because of radical Islam. My house in Kashmir is still occupied by one of my neighbors who used to love me. We used to be all together. We used to have our festivities, our relationship. We had good. But when this thing happened, he occupied my home. I cannot go back to my home in Kashmir. So, and it has happened since about 30 years ago. So 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus had to leave their homeland and come to other regions of India to settle because of radical Islam. So that is what I want to warn the Americans, that this can happen right here.
But this is all about radical Islam. It's not about regular Islam.
See, the problem with radical Islam and Islam is, as far as because we have suffered. I am a sufferer. I am a refugee from Kashmir. The problem is that when the radical Islamists, they are few in numbers, when they do some jihad or anything, the real good Muslims, they remain quiet. So they are basically a silent supporters of that movement. So they don't rise against them. If they rise, then these radicals cannot control the whole. But what they do, they are basically silent spectators. So they are also, in a way, silently supporting radicalism.
Because I have a good friend who's Muslim, and he's a really good guy. He works with a Jewish boss, right? And they all get to they get along together, and everybody gets along harmoniously, and there's none of this. I don't see any of this kind of display with him at all.
No, that's true. My best friend, his name is Muhammad Altaf Fazli. He's a Muslim, and he's in Kashmir. He's my best friend. It's not that individually they are nice, but collectively they will support that radical, or they will become silent. They won't say anything. When we were being ethnically cleansed from Kashmir, no Kashmiri Muslim came to us. No, don't go. We will support you. Come to my home. Stay in my home. Nobody. So basically they were silently supporting the radical Islam in Kashmir. And I am a perfect example of it. Not me, but 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus who were forced to leave their homes, leave their properties, everything, their jobs and everything. So there's a thin line between radical Islam and regular Islam.
All right, so you came out here and you gave your speech, and what did you gain? What did you want to gain from this? Did you gain anything from it? What are you trying to get the word out about exactly? Do you like people? Do you want to?
I want people to
join your cause.
To join our cause, as well as to know that Islam, radical Islam, we need to curb that at every level, because if it is allowed to spread, it's going to be danger for the United States of America also. Because when in minority, they are very nice. But as soon as they come in majority, you should see what has happened in Birmingham. It was a peaceful town in England. And you see now what the radical Islam, how they have converted it. Yeah. So that is going to happen. That can happen here also if you are not careful.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to give you a card in a second. Let me talk to Loomer. What up, Loomer? Hey,
What's up, Bobby Pickles?
Can you sum up this event for me again?
Well, first of all, I just want to say, look at all this swag, this Laura Loomer for Congress swag that you made. I think you made that for me, didn't you?
I didn't make the signs.
You made the shirts and the hats, right?
Yeah. Who the hell did the signs?
Fat Enzo makes the best T-shirts. I make all my T-shirts for my campaign and my media company. So.
Nice. All right. So, Loomer, what's up with this?
Well, you have a jihadist, Siraj Wahhaj, who's having a fundraiser, giving a talk inside this Marriott hotel with a bunch of terrorist sympathizers and fellow jihadists in the community. And, these are very bad people who, like him himself, are co-conspirators in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, people who support Icna, CARE. These are terrorist organizations that have been designated as such in, Middle Eastern countries. So I think that if Muslim people abroad are designating these groups as terrorist organizations, we may want to take note and do the same here. But unfortunately,
they're having a convention right here.
Having a convention, but then the Proud Boys, which you're a member of the Proud Boys. How many times have your venues been canceled or conservative venues been canceled by these same hotels, Marriotts and Hiltons, that will shut down conservative events?
Well, let's go shut them down. Come on.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm a congressional candidate now.
Let's storm the gates.
I'm a congressional candidate now, so no more storming anything. Maybe when I get elected, right? But hey, no, this is a real serious problem. And as I mentioned in my speech, whether it's from Miami or all the way up to Pensacola, right, from the south to the north of Florida, you have Islamic infiltration and attempted terrorist attacks, actual terrorist attacks, covered up terrorist attacks, and, just full-blown Islamic infiltration of our airports, our universities, our schools, universities, and all the intelligence agencies, the Navy bases. Under the Obama administration, they successfully infiltrated the White House under, the presidency of Barack Hussein Obama. And they're inside of our intelligence agencies. The FBI had the father of the Orlando Pulse shooting working as some type of informant. And that only came out during the trial that they had in Orlando. And it was because the FBI withheld that evidence that the wife of Omar Mateen, who helped carry out the ISIS attack, was able to go, right? And they said that she was guilty, but because the FBI withheld that key piece of evidence about him being an informant, she was able to walk, right? And so now the wife of an ISIS terrorist and the son of an ISIS terrorist are freely living in America. And who knows, right? I'm sure their hatred for America and their pro-ISIS ideology and sentiments are still in their mind, and they're polluting the minds of others with the same toxic, hateful, pro-terror ideology. And that's what's happening inside this Marriott here, right, in Coral Springs, Florida. And, it's a shame that there's not more people here. The local media should be here.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the media?
It's just me covering it.
Right.
And I felt my due diligence. I have to cover it. So I'll put this up. So at least somebody has
should.
it.
Yeah.
But,
and I would be covering it too, but they shut me down everywhere and they banned me. And that's what I was doing as an investigative journalist prior to running for Congress. I would fly across the country and attend these type of events and expose them, right? Like I did at all of Ilhan Omar's events and did at the Woodland Hills event. And they targeted me because of it. So they have more, as far as I'm concerned, Islamic jihadists have more free speech protections in this country right now, currently, than patriotic American citizens who are out here fighting against Islamic terror, fighting against jihad, fighting against Sharia, right? Fighting for America.
How ironic, though, that it's happening in your own backyard. You used to go around and fly around to cover stuff like this.
Well, it happens in my backyard all the time. I mean, as I mentioned in my speech that I gave a couple weeks ago, an Iranian national who was clearly a jihadist, came through the Palm Beach International Airport, and he crossed over the Flagler Bridge, seemed to be heading towards the area near Mar-a-Lago with $22,000 in his car, which means he had a handler because you can't travel internationally with more than $10,000, right? So that's what I want to know is, where are these other jihadist handlers in my district where I'm running for Congress who are clearly coordinating this with...
So you're not reaching out to the Muslim vote?
No, I have Muslim Republicans who are actually in support of my congressional campaign. I had my campaign kickoff at a Muslim diner. Wow. Yeah. Look.
That was a Muslim diner?
It was a Muslim-owned diner. Yeah, Nahid Khan, great woman, great American patriot, supporter of President Trump. She's a Muslim woman, and she's going to be voting for me, and she supports my race. And look, I don't have anything against Muslim people. I have something against jihadists, right? And there are Muslims who love America. There are Muslims who support our president. And there are Muslims who do speak out about, the activities that are taking place at this event tonight. But unfortunately, there's not enough Muslims in the Muslim community who are doing that. There really aren't enough. And it's because within the Muslim community, right, they create this kind of... there's kind of like this bully network that exists where if you speak out or if you raise awareness or if you support conservatives or if you go along with law enforcement, right, you're kind of seen as a so-called, traitor, or they find you to be siding with the president, who the left has successfully branded as anti-Muslim, right? They say that President Trump has a Muslim ban, which is absolutely incorrect, totally false, okay? It's just a few select Muslim countries.
It was all the countries that Obama...
56 Muslim countries. If it was a Muslim ban, 56 countries would be on that list.
But it was the same list that Obama put together, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was.
Well, it's for the safety of the American people, and it's to prevent Islamic immigration from countries where they have hotbeds of terrorism. Yeah. And so I have nothing against Muslims, despite what the left-wing media has said about me. I welcome people of all faiths, all backgrounds, regardless of what you all are, whatever your orientation is, as long as you support America first. And if you are a real, loyal, true American patriot, then you will have no problem speaking out against, Islamic jihadist infiltration and subversion in our country. If you come here, you need to assimilate.
Loomer, you speak so well. I mean, do you ever prepare? Did you prepare for this? Did you go off notes at all?
No, I don't write speeches. It's not for me.
Very well. Good job. Well, you know who I'm voting for. Very much.
Thank you.
How you doing, sir?
How are you?
I'm Bobby.
Nice to meet you, Bob.
And you're running for Congress in District what?
23rd.
23.
Yeah.
And your name,
Shlomo Nizahon, yeah.
And I caught your speech. It was a very interesting speech. You have an interesting take on it. Can you sum up like this event for our viewers really fast? What was the event? Like, what was it for?
Well, this event has, as you've seen, some Muslim activists that are imams that are local. And that had some connection circumstantially to the 1993 World Trade Center attack and 9/11 attacks. But from my standpoint is that I love our way of life, and I don't want...
You're from Israel originally?
From Israel, yeah. And I don't want anyone to assimilate their way of life to change our way of life. I've researched incitement to terror on the internet. I wrote legal research, how to change the law so that incitement to terror can end without infringing on our freedom of speech, so that terrorism on the internet can stop. Okay, this is where I'm coming from.
This is the background?
Yes, this is where I want to make the change. And also to our way of life here, the divisiveness that's happening. I think all of us had enough of that. The hatred on whether it is in the internet or between the people. Or on the news.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. You had that specifically. I wanted to ask you if it's hypocritical to ban people. These Islamist, fundamentalist people on the internet when conservative people are getting, silenced. I just think that that's wrong. So maybe is it wrong both ways to silence? Shouldn't we just allow free speech? We should
allow free speech definitely in general. Okay, my point of view in my research is whoever is listed, on the watch list, designated as a terrorist organization. A terrorist organization cannot open up a bank account. A terrorist organization...
You're talking about the FBI watch list?
FBI watch,
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's
not the SPLC or some
we're talking
ridiculous
about,
group.
We're talking about the FBI, CIA, we're talking about national security list.
Intelligence.
In order to be on that list, you have a process that's called a judicial review, where you could bring it up to Washington and to the court and try to remove yourself from that list. And there's a procedure that you can go through the courts. And if you can manage to remove yourself, that's great. But if not, you're still designated as a terrorist organization, right? And if you're designated as a terrorist organization by our government, you can't open up a bank account. You can't walk on our streets. You can't get on a flight and just do whatever you want here. The same thing I think should apply on the internet. But not only that, I think the ISPs, those social media, should be accountable, for the content that's placed on the platform. So let's say I go with your point of view. Let me finish, right? This group and that group can be on social media, but whatever consequence that happens from whatever this person says or that person says, and you can find the connection to that specific person, right, through the ISP, have the ISP also accountable civilly, right? Just like if you run a red light, you're going to get a ticket, right? You don't have immunity if you run the red light. Why? Right? Because you follow the law. Same thing with ISPs. If you can connect someone that either was a designated terrorist organization or a person, right, or anyone that's connected to some sort of a terror act, and it was, and you've seen from other terrorist acts that they actually filmed it while they were doing it, right? None of the social medias were held accountable for that. People died, people got hurt. None. They have what's called a broad immunity. Yet, right, they have the power to cancel you if they want for something simple that you said, while others are just placed and they can say whatever they want and can cause harm.
Okay, in that regard, I agree with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
In that regard, I agree with you. Yes, if you wanna make it even, okay, that's fine.
Yes.
But I'm saying like once you get into all of that, it's a very slippery slope. Because who's going to be deeming these people? But if you're talking about an intelligence agency, I mean, you have a deep state problem. We have a lot of these holdovers from Obama. It seems like whenever you have these holdovers from any of these administrations, the tendency is to become like a deep state scum.
Our state, right? If you're a child molester, right? You have once you're designated in a way through the courts. That's why we have the court system. Once you're designated and you're on the list, you're on the list, right? You can appeal, you can go as high up. But once you have a problem with.
So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a registration system, but it's for.
It's exactly the same thing. You can go through the court systems and fight it legally. Mm-hmm. Everyone has that right. This is a mechanism that United States. Everyone has that right.
You can fight it. That's fine because right now the way they do it is they just dictate it and they cancel you, and you can't appeal it. You can't say anything. So as long as there's
a judicial review for everyone that's placed on the terrorists. They can go and they can fight it. Get lawyer up, right? Fight it. Go to the court systems and remove yourself. But if the court system decided that you're still a designated terrorist organization, then this is what the court decided. Just as if any other ruling that you have.
Sounds good. Where's District 23? Where's that encompass? Here?
No, it's not here. It's a little bit south. It's
Broward?
It's Broward. Exactly.
Cool. Awesome, man. Republican, obviously.
Obviously.
All right, so where should everybody go to support you and if they want to give to your fundraiser or whatever, or donate to your campaign?
To my website, Nizahon for Congress.
Shlomo?
Nizahon for Congress. Nizahon, yeah.
That's very difficult.
I'll write it up for you afterwards.
Please, write it up for me. Yeah, and then, by the way, you need T-shirts? Let me know.
Okay.
All right?
He always says, that's me, with that look on his face.